Casperr and Agro here, or whatever I decide to do on the spot.
Whatever you just
Okay.
haven't talked. But
Oh,
no, wait. I think we're going to do a thing, so I'm going to record.
okay. Well, I got the stream open and I can see it, so I
Yeah.
think you're lying to me.
Okay, here we go. Live in 3, 2.
Hello, everybody. Casperr speaking right now, and with me today, I've got Agro from a channel you might have heard of, a podcast you might have heard of, Critscast. Hello, Agro.
Hello, Casperr.
Let's pretend we haven't been talking for the last 10 minutes already.
Oh, I'll pretend I haven't been drinking then. Oh, I've been dying for a drink. I'll take a sip now then.
Oh, go on then. First beer of the night.
One of many hundreds, I imagine. For those
Oh,
playing along at home, I'm currently drinking a Brewdog Punk IPA.
ah,
And for those listening in North America, yes, it is slightly warm.
warm beer.
Warm beer, yeah. Just to playing up to the stereotype, I forgot to. I got it out last night with a specific intention of having it available for me to drink because I thought yesterday was Friday, and then when the evening passed and it actually was Friday, I thought I'd put it in the fridge again, but then I went to bed. So I've woken up today and thought, well, I could put it in the fridge this morning, but I forgot again. So it's come to the end of the day and it's just not been cooled. Anyway, warm beer. Better
So
than
it's
no beer.
not. It's honestly not a preference. That's what you're trying to say?
Yeah, I'm trying to say it's not a preference. It's just something that happened, and nobody can tell me differently. I think I'm recording. Yeah,
Well, I
am.
can see the live stream, so I'm pretty sure it's live at the very least.
Well, it's definitely live. That's at least good. Okay, so we're doing something a bit weird and different today, as you can probably tell from the intro. I have agreed under duress. No, I volunteer for this. I've agreed to be interviewed by Casperr, who may or may not decide to make a YouTube type video based on the content herein.
Yeah, I
So,
think that's a fair description. Ultimately, what I would love to do is do a video where someone who likes TF2 but doesn't maybe know about Critscast, maybe never even heard of Critscast, might see that video and think, huh, that sounds interesting. And then they watch that video and think, hey, that was interesting.
I thought for a moment you were going to say somebody who's never heard of Team Fortress 2. You ask them to describe what Team Fortress 2 would be like. Yeah, and then
I
what
think
Critscast would be like on top of that, and then you expose them both to TF2 and to Critscast, and try and
oh, like a react video.
Yeah, reaction. Yeah.
Kids react to Critscast.
That would be terrible. What's beer, mummy? Fail.
But yeah, ultimately, I've known about Critscast. Like, I can't remember a time where I knew about TF2 but didn't know about Critscast. But at the same time, I don't know the story of Critscast. I don't know how or why it started. I know that you guys have spoken to Valve on a few occasions, but I don't know how that happened, whatever came of those conversations. So those are the sort of things I would love to know. As a Team Fortress fan, what has Critscast impacted Team Fortress by doing?
Yeah, no, def. No problem with that. I've never used the phrase def. I think maybe I'm a little bit nervous.
Oh, yes, you're on the other side now.
Yeah, I normally control the entire process. So I feel like although I haven't technically changed seats, I feel like I'm sat in the wrong place. I'm drinking.
Well, you are still in control. You could just
drinking
close this
beer
down any moment.
I could walk away. I could just slam. I'm done with this. Slam my fist on the desk and run out, and then slam the door. I have to move a few boxes before I slam the door. So it'd be worth it for dramatic effect.
Maybe that's how we'll end it.
I'm sure that could be arranged. Right. I've got on my screen at the moment the website creators.tf.
Yes, I'm familiar.
Excellent. So I don't have to ask you to download a pack.
Oh, I'm familiar, but I've never been in a server from it, so I'll have to download something on that
You
basis.
don't necessarily have to. If you've got fast enough internet, download it. Just a way of getting the maps faster than.
Okay.
Yeah. But if for those of you playing at home and you want to join us, go to creators.tf /servers, and when we call out the name of the server one, you can once and go to group. It is the only thing we use our Steam group for. Go to the Steam group. We'll post up a message saying we're live. Come and join us on the server. So once you've got that installed, it's a really quick download.
Okay.
Assuming you've got good internet.
Yeah, good enough.
Have you weathered the code? I've fallen into the mode of interviewing
You have, haven't you?
almost accidentally.
I mean, that's fine by me whilst I get this set up.
Sure, okay. Well, we'll do a little reversal back. Then when you're set up, you can take over again. So how are you? How you've managed to survive COVID? So
Well, I've been, I guess, fortunate in the sense that my job as a web developer lends itself fairly well to no changes in my life. So,
seconds,
yeah.
I had this conversation with my mum a few weeks ago, and she said, "So how are you coping with COVID?" And I'm like, "COVID." That thing. You haven't been going out, have you? No.
Why would I
How?
do that?
Yeah, I was like, what's outside for me? Like I've been accidentally self-quarantining for the last 24 years, and I'm okay with that. Yeah. Casper's a bit loud compared to Agro. I turned Casper's volume up and I told him off for speaking quietly. So, thank you for pointing that out. No, I won't go on a date with you. No, I'll turn him down in Casperr. There,
I'm still here.
turn me
Okay.
up a bit.
Okay. I mean, you sound fine to me, but I also can't hear myself. So,
Yeah, that's the thing. I was gonna spend a lot of money and get some expensive equipment so that I could press a button and hear myself. Um,
okay.
but in a way that you wouldn't get like two of me on stream.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, that does sound pretty useful,
Yeah, no, it really is. It's a very cool solution, but
but expensive.
expensive. And it's one of those expensive things that when you like until you actually spend the money, you think, oh, that's a reasonable amount of money to be spending on that. But then as soon as you have, you think, why have I spent this money for like pressing a button? It's madness. One of those. It's equivalent of like a stream deck. Like, yeah, pressing
Yeah.
the button helps you out so much when you're streaming, but in reality, it's just a hotkey that looks fancy.
I do know that experience because I have done exactly that and I've never used it. It just sits on my desk
I
and I've never actually pressed those buttons
well,
other than when I was setting it up.
right now, I use it every single time I get onto my PC. Mostly because I've got to set it up to go to a quick link that opens the thumbnails folder that I use to generate the YouTube thumbs.
Yeah.
And so it's instead of opening an application and then pulling in a file and then doing a thing, it just one press and it does it.
That does
So
sound pretty useful.
it saves me all of I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 seconds a day.
Nice.
But on the backside of that, it took me about an hour to set it up. So I don't know.
Eventually,
I think
it will
like yeah,
break even.
yeah. Give it another like 5 to 10 years, and I'll be even. Oh, it's madness the amount of money that it costs to do streaming stuff.
It is, isn't it? And as you know, and the stream wouldn't know, so I'll tell them. I've recently been looking at new computer stuff,
Yep.
and everywhere where you look, where you're buying parts of a computer, they're now trying to push streaming bundles as well. It seems
Oh,
that
really? Oh,
everyone is
okay.
being encouraged to buy a microphone, a webcam, and other streaming equipment to be a streamer.
Yeah. I mean, like when I started streaming, that was unusual. Like
Mm.
there was definitely a sense of understanding when it comes to PC not manufacturers, but per se, like but that there was definitely such a thing as an analog to digital converter for XLR mics. there was definitely flashy keyboards and flashy mice and
Okay.
flashy headphones, and you can get webcams. But the webcams were definitely being targeted towards sort of communicating with your auntie, your granny at home, and maybe business meetings. And the microphones were targeted towards musicians, or maybe a little bit of podcasty type stuff. But the assumption was that if you were doing podcasts, you were recording them on an Apple. So everything would work on Mac, on Mac OS, OS 7 or 9. God knows, I've never actually got into that. But you'd be lucky. You'd have to wrangle some drivers out of Windows Vista or whatever to Windows 7 or something to make it work with your system. Nothing was straightforward. Nothing was documented anywhere. And it was fun, and every
Yeah.
single time. I mean, there was a very great deal of frustration. I'm doing a lot of talking with my hands at the moment. I'm realizing the screen sees nothing of this. So the stream. My apologies for making a very boring visual representation of this conversation. But right now, I'm streaming here. Yeah, apparently. So this is like it has been so transformative to have the recent turnaround. I say recent, like in the last 5 years, 7 years,
Yeah.
uh,
That,
of people starting to have an expectation of streaming from home. Like the equipment prices have gone down. There's various websites, various YouTube streams of people just covering podcasting. Like I was podcasting before; it was cool.
oh, yeah.
Oh
You guys
yeah.
are really early. I mean, I guess that leads in nicely to one of the first questions I want to ask about Chris cards.
Okay, have you downloaded the file yet? Can we
I
jump on a
have
server?
downloaded the file and I've put it in my download folder.
Okay. Am I right in assuming that you're in the UK somewhere?
Yes. Do I not sound like I'm in the UK somewhere?
I don't want to make any assumptions.
Okay, that's fair enough.
Although I literally said, "Am I right in assuming?" So yeah, if you're in the UK, I'm in the UK. It makes sense that we join a UK server, but there aren't any.
Yes.
But there's some
Oh,
in
no, no.
France. So
En
is
France?
is Strasbourg? Is that France? A
Yes.
little French
No,
flag on it.
Strasbourg. That sounds.
Yeah, it says West Europe, so I guess
I'm sure
they're
it'll be fine for us.
yeah. German doesn't. I'm not good in I was gonna say English, geography, any language, math, science. Not good.
No?
No. For someone who sounds clever, I'm not.
It is. It
Yeah.
is in France, by the way,
Is
but
it?
right on the border.
Well, I mean, I'll take it. I'll take it as a win. Let's pretend I knew that and just delete this bit from the feed. Right, so let's go to a server that has somebody on it, but not so many. Let's fill it
Okay.
ourselves.
Okay.
Do you have a way of filling servers?
No,
Okay.
not.
Let's see.
We'll do it organically.
Let's see if we can fill this server. Let's go to number
Okay.
1.
101.
101. Where we're going.
Okay.
I've never been on server 101 before, and I think my volume might be quite loud, so apologies to anyone who joins just as the game starts up. I need to turn that down. Loading up. Summer Coast.
Oh, perhaps it's like restarted the map rotation. Now people have joined or something weird like that.
Game volume very loud. Home.
Oh,
Just
lovely.
a very squelchy noise for a countdown.
Oh, it's snowy coast, but warm. Oh, is this a competitive? Oh, you trying to change the map?
No, that wasn't me. Oh, yeah, you're right. This is like springtime.
Yeah, I'm guessing this is like a competitive, edited version.
Whenever anybody says springtime, I always think of that song from The Directors. Springtime in time Hitler. I don't know what the rest of the song is, so I always got the phrase "springtime for Hitler" just stuck in wedged in my brain.
I can't say
Oh,
I'm familiar.
It is a fairly awful, very sad old movie, and by very sad I mean it's a comedy, but it hasn't survived in any real sense.
Yeah.
The humor,
classics.
yeah.
Some no.
I mean, it is a classic, but not to me.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
But you do.
Rude as Heck has kindly joined the other team.
I see that. Let us see if we can grab another few internet denizens. I must choose data pair.
A date.
Yeah. Now, there he goes.
Ah, there we are.
Yeah.
He's hiding. He must be. Spy somewhere. Or he's protesting. Oh, we've got some more joining.
Oh, there we go. Right, let's get this cart moved a little bit while we've got a chance. I know I'm getting it stabbed, but
there he is.
Got in the face. Oh, down with you.
We both did the same thing at exactly the same moment. Went for a high five. So, shall I ask you some questions, Agro?
You may as well. You may begin, sir.
Okay, well, tell me then, why and when? Start with when, because that would probably be a short answer. And then tell me why did Critscast happen?
Okay, so very origins of Critscast. You can tell I've answered this question before. I was part of a clan called Clan Vengeance, and I had been raised to the exalted level of admin, I think.
Oh.
For the clan, we had clan meetings.
Okay.
We actually enjoyed the clan meetings probably more than anything else that we did.
Was this a Team Fortress clan or like an all-game clan?
It was entirely a Team Fortress 2 clan.
Okay.
In fact, it had only sort of begun existing round about the time when, well, just after TF2 was created. So, like, it was exclusively, in every sense, a TF2 clan.
Okay.
So Tempest and a guy called Dr. Zaius, myself, eventually someone called Kronos, and someone else called I'll remember the name in a minute. Boobies.
How could you forget Boobies?
Well, I mean, everybody loves Boobies, which was always his tagline, and it worked. We loved it. So, somebody just got stabbed in the bag.
Do you think that medic might be a spy?
Maybe. Oh, how did he live? Sod.
Dead ringer, overpowered.
It is a little bit.
Dead ringer.
All spy classes overpowered. I was playing a game the other day, and somebody suggested that if they do Team Fortress 3, they should get rid of Pyro. I'm like, you're a spy, aren't you?
I mean, I gotta say, I'm tempted to agree.
Wow. Are you a spy?
Not at the moment.
Maybe. Later. Pay me enough.
So you had these meetings.
So we had meetings, and they were fun. They were fun in a stupid way. Like we were laughing and joking, and we kind of got business done. But at the end of the day, like most of it was just speculation about TF2 and just kind of hanging out with mates and it seemed like I think Tempest was really into podcasts or had started getting into podcasts.
Okay.
And I had started listening to podcasts around at the same sort of time. And we both kind of figured, well, why don't we just make this into a podcast? And it was that. There was nothing more than that. It was just, let's share the experience of this meeting because it was the best thing that was going on in the clan, in our opinion. And that's why it started. I think it started like the first one. Go back and look at the original uploads to the internet's kind of dates.
Yeah.
Was around about August of I think
2010, 11?
No, it was 2008. Like the game had come out in October when we kind of decided we were finally going to like be a thing properly, as opposed to just talking around about 2000.
Yeah. In fact, So this will be the first one that's on the Critscast website, is it?
Mm. Well, yes and no. The Quizcast website didn't exist to begin with. So I think it might have actually been before then. But we generated the website and then we started down the line of making it like an official thing that was going to be happening every week. When we first started doing the podcast, it was supposed to be every week, but as you do, like best laid plans of mice and men, like the first one was every week because it was the first one. The first one was every minute because it was the first one. But no, the first one was every week, and then it wasn't anymore. Then after a while, it became. We realised it could only possibly happening every 4 months. And after a while, we kind of figured, well, we're failing at life. We're failing at the one thing we set out to do, which was record this weekly podcast. And we needed some sort of impetus to try and get us to do it properly. So we kind of at that point essentially had to go and start streaming, and that's like a little bit further down the line. But we were so close to not doing this at all evermore that we very much came close to completely ending it after, I think, like maybe 4 episodes.
So you felt if you do it live, and then people will be expecting it at a certain time, that would sort of encourage you to do it every week.
We felt like if we did it live, then someone would hold us accountable.
Yeah. That makes total sense.
And so that worked out for us very well, actually. I was very pleased with the results. And after we'd done, I think the threshold we set for ourselves was something like, let's go for a year, and if we're still doing it, then I don't see any reason to stop. I don't know.
Since then, how many weeks have been missed?
So many weeks have been missed.
Oh, okay.
Like, so the team has changed up a number of times. So we've probably missed more in recent years than we've missed in the past. We did kind of lock it down so that there would always be somebody there at some stage. We would make it work, and that kind of stopped happening. And as soon as it's like all things, like sticking to a diet or remembering to do your homework kind of things. Like you only have to miss one, and then that's we're never going to miss one ever. Impetus has gone, and now you're fighting yourself. And I think we definitely went through phases of, well, why are we doing this? If it's so much effort to do it, why are we doing it at all? Realistically, I don't think we're ever going to stop having those feelings, moments, experiences. And even to the extent of who is the we in this sentence has changed many times.
Who is it at this point in time, this moment, right now? Who is we?
Well, so from a podcast perspective, you are talking to the we.
Okay.
And I fall into this trap a great deal of talking, I think it's called the royal we.
Okay.
When you refer to yourself in either the third person or like as if you were multiple people.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
So I am the entirety of the podcast. Thank you. But that on its head, I've recently started working with a YouTuber by the name of... It's gone from me. Oh, he'll hurt me if he doesn't get his name check in. But I just need to kill... I'm going to make the excuse of killing these spies because they're cheeky fellows.
You got to concentrate. All of
my energy on killing these spies because let's face it, that's what they're there for, to be killed.
You're a pyro, aren't you?
Yeah, this is career pyro. Oof, that's not good.
Shall we come back to it?
We'll come back to it. I've got the point that I was trying to make is I've got an editor now and he's going through and doing a bunch of the edits for these streams and making them accessible again.
Okay.
It's a difficulty that we walked into is that these things tend to be very much long format, and unless you're here for it, it's tough making it entertaining. But if you've got an editor, then you can just cut out the boring bits where all we're doing is looking at our socks or trying to remember the name of YouTubers. So
So that editor might cut this into like a
yeah, he might cut it
highlights
like
sort of video.
I'm not very good at real nouns, so I can't remember or dates or numbers. We've had this conversation already. Like I'm just the memory thing doesn't work for me.
Oh, okay.
So when I can't remember anyone's name, they almost certainly shouldn't take it personally. And it's been a bug me. Who do I follow on Twitter? Yeah. Yeah. So it's just me doing the podcast thing, and but the actual Who Is Critscast is now like a bigger. It's a much bigger thing than it's ever been in the past.
So Critscast isn't just a podcast
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. In fact, it's about 1 million miles from being just a podcast. Even to the extent that if we close down like the podcast part of it, I would be very surprised if anyone noticed. It is the smallest part of it now.
Oh, okay. So what are the other main parts then?
Well, the other main part, thanks for making me feel small, is the esports side of it.
Okay.
I've had the fortune of meeting and begun working with a gent by the name of Wiethoofd, who is in chat at the moment. So I'm sure
yes, I'm familiar.
You're familiar with the Wiethoofd. I mean, to be honest, like, how could you not be? Because he is single-handedly responsible for almost every competitive stream that has ever happened in the last 5. That's a lie. There's so many people doing it. It's quite cool. But yeah, he's definitely got his hand in a lot of competitive content.
Yeah.
And he and I are very happy that Critscast has kind of taken to delivering content for both Highlander and Sixes matches.
So is that, would you say it's a similar role to what X Television did or does, Phil?
Yeah, I mean, so it's just weird. Like every time I come to answer a question, I'm like, but yeah, it's true right now. But actually, like if you go back 4 years, then it was different. Yeah. So,
That's okay.
but anyway, in answer in slightly shorter format answer, because it's probably that's what I have to do in order to get like a full answer in before another question comes. So in slightly shorter format, the Critscast is now made up of a whole bunch of contributors and casters and producers and just very skilled, incredible human beings that would, I'm sure, do the things that they do for free if I didn't force money down into them. And the money that I can force down into them is such a small, it's a pittance because there's very little money in this game.
Clearly
at the moment.
not their motivating factor.
Absolutely not. I think there was a thread on TeamFortress.tv about this recently, about the Critscast. I don't know what we're being accused. Oh yeah, we're being accused of like money gouging or something because in order to watch a match, you had to subscribe to us on Twitch. Which is not true. I mean, you can.
Someone just randomly made that up.
Well, no. I mean, so what we'd started doing is we'd started charging. We'd started saying that all of the previous VODs are accessible only to people who are paid for them.
Yeah.
So if you become a subscriber on Twitch, you gain access to all of the VODs.
Okay.
So we'd kind of locked that down, and so their argument, whilst not valid, was still kind of true. It didn't fulfill the entirety of the conversation.
Yeah.
And I mean that you could gain access to the content on YouTube. You could watch it live, but if it was your match, obviously that's not a possibility. But yeah, everything is available to all people at all times. And we've kind of gone out of our way to not be that guy. He says, quitting someone. But yeah, it's tough to draw the line exactly and to be like the free channel for amazing content without feeling like you're taking advantage of other people and their amazing, like, their skills and abilities. and I didn't want to be that guy, because there were a number of casting communities out there where you know that they do a thing, but it's very hard to tell, like, why they're still being paid. Like, why are they the one who's taking home the bacon?
You mean other games that?
Not necessarily other games. There are definitely other streaming platforms where an individual is significantly benefiting from it, and it's probably not the person you think it is. Like, the person who made the channel in the first place walks away with all of the subs, and there's really no reason for it. And everybody else does things because they're volunteers and they want TF2 to succeed. So, like, some of the things that I've done with regards to Critscast are because I'm a really nice guy. But realistically, most of them are there because there's some sort of inequality in the world of Team 2. There's some hole that isn't being filled. There's some role that should be taken professionally, but at the moment or at that time, either through neglect, like deliberate neglect, or just because nobody knew that it was a thing that could be done, it's not being done yet. So I think our main role is to bring about change. Somebody just stabbed me in the back, you
Bastard.
bastard. Francis, I'll kill you later. Yeah, and I'm glad to see that, like, whether or not the things that I choose to, or we choose to do deliberately, get taken up by the rest. I don't really.
I mean,
mind. It's just
you do you.
Exactly.
Don't worry
Yeah,
if everyone
100%.
else sort of
100%.
sees you as a role model or not.
Yes, and I'd hate to regard myself as being a role model. But yeah, absolutely. I mean, if I can bring about any kind of change at all, yes, I'm so happy.
Well, I think you most definitely have done that. Which sort of actually that leads in nicely to another question I had: is what did Critscast ever do for us?
It's like the Romans. What have they done for us?
What's Critscast's
we
impact
mentioned-
been on Team Fortress 2? Because I know for a fact we've got a hat in game, the Critscast Lo-Fi Longwave. So how did that happen?
Okay, I can answer that question. What I can't answer is what has Critscast done for you, because I don't. Whether it's through modesty or lack of, like, imagination, or just appalling memories. Oh, you're not going to put me in the pit. Don't put me in the pit. Nobody puts me in the pit. Sorry about that. You know, way to answer that question.
Did you end up in the pit?
I didn't. I survived. Oh, now I'm going to go in the pit. I couldn't even go in the pit when I wanted to. Yeah, we. If we bring about change, it's just because, yay. I don't really think that we've done anything to improve Team Fortress 2.
Well, you must be one of the very first community projects.
Okay, I mean, I'll take that. No. We've definitely, like, I think Control Point was the first TF2 podcast, and they had a hell of a run. They went all the way up to, like, 2 and a bit years. They released their 100th episode, and they made it their last episode, and they were determined to go out with a bang. They had a guy there who, like, was a guitarist, and he would sing stuff, and people would do jingles. The community was super hype and just really got involved with stuff Control Point was doing. I remember being very jealous of Control Point. Like, we had the 3 English people, or actually 2 English people and an Australian, but, like, they had, like, funny people, and they had community involvement, and did all of the things right. And I'm like, we can never really be Control Points. So when they celebrated their 100th episode and kind of revealed that was their last, it was sad, but at the same time, it was such a relief to not be constantly comparing ourselves to them. Which I think, again, was one of those conversations that only I had with me. Like, nobody else compared us to them. We weren't by any means a poor man's. I just got blown out the way. That's great. Thank you very much. You saved my life. We weren't a poor man's Control Point. We were our own thing. But you know, when you're a kid, I was in my 30s, I think. When you're young to a thing, you imagine that everybody else is is doing a better job of it than you, and
Yeah,
we were just doing it a different way. So we were one of the first podcasts. We were possibly among the first like long-standing projects, and I don't think anyone ever thought of it as being a project either. Like anyway, I think I warned you before that I could talk for ages without actually saying anything useful.
And then you warned me that actually you might not have long answers to these questions.
Did I? I'm not sure those are the exact words that I used. I think I said I might not actually have anything worth saying, which I'm still not 100% certain that I've not dismissed that.
But you told me lots that I didn't know already.
I'm wondering now. I'm going to have to go back through this and delete things that I've said. Have I said too much? I probably...
The internet is forever.
Yeah. Here's the... On our Steam group. I can... Oh, screen's gone a bit weird. Did not do that. This is the... Able to join as them. Anyway, sorry, you were saying... What was the actual question that I wasn't answering? I
was asking, how did the Lo-Fi Longwave happen?
Okay, alright. So, funny story. Hey! Here we go. We kind of invited ourselves to Valve.
Okay, what, you just showed up at the door one day?
I mean, we were a little bit more courteous than that. We didn't just show... Oh, spy. We didn't just show up.
Did you email or speak to someone at Valve and say, can we come along?
Yeah. Boobies, the aforementioned Boobies...
who everybody loves.
Everybody loves Boobies. He is, to my knowledge, an Australian.
Okay.
And
so is Robin Walker.
Robin Walker, creator of Team Fortress 2 and basically all of the Team Fortresses, is also Australian. So for months, the two of us worked together on an email that would sound, with the specific intent that it would sound very casual.
I know what you mean.
Yeah.
Isn't there a famous scene in The Young Ones where they're writing a letter, just like this? Yeah. I'll send you a clip afterwards.
All right.
If you don't know the one I mean.
I'll enjoy that afterwards. I'm not sure. I didn't enjoy The Young Ones when it was like doing its first reruns. I don't know.
It's very old British comedy, isn't it?
Yeah. It's acquired taste. What's the struggle? But yeah, so
you crafted this beautiful email.
Yeah, that's right.
So weeks of thought went into it.
We did. We sent it. It's like we were sending it over email. Like we'd send it back and forth. I think we were actually using Google Wave at the time. We just like passed this email between us.
Another one for the Google graveyard.
Yeah. No, Google Wave was brilliant for us for doing the podcast. It was amazing. So we'd write show notes. We could add things into each other's messages. It was like it was community. Like our little group, we were writing content to the show on the fly together, working together. Like Google Wave was the best thing in the world for us. We were so disappointed when we discovered it was going to be gone. We cried in our sleep when we knew that was going to happen because everything we'd developed at that time was dependent on Google Wave. Anyway, so we worked together on this email. The contents of the emails being, "Hey, I'm an Australian. I hear you're an Australian, and I hear that..." I think it was something along the lines, "Hey, I hear that like North America has made you soft, and you're no longer able to drink beer anymore. I challenge you to a beer." I'm gonna be in.
So he asked
Seattle.
Robin Walker on a date, basically.
Essentially, that's a really crude way of putting it, but that does summarise it a little bit. It was like a challenge. I dare you to prove your Australianness by coming out for a beer.
Okay.
And by the way, I'm going to bring my English friend. And I mean, all of it was a lie in as much as like Boobies was going to be in North America. He was never going to be in Seattle.
Okay.
But that doesn't matter. We just kind of and then there was no way I was going to be in America. But we actually ended up going during PAX events.
Okay.
And we turned up what we thought was strategically and or fashionably late. God, it does sound like a date. And
so this is at Valve's offices now.
Yeah, we kind of rocked up at their office. And as a indirect result of that, we had a conversation, or direct result of that, we had a conversation with a bunch of Valve people.
Yeah. Did they know that you were running a podcast? At what point did you tell them you're running a podcast?
All right. One of the conversations we had with them, and Robin was very clear and keen to point this out, and he kind of
Okay.
like he did the verbal equivalent of underlining it a few times, yeah, writing in red pen, was that we were there as friends.
Okay.
Like specifically, we were there we had been invited to spend some time with them as friends, as opposed to being there as reporters. So the conversation we had with them was very open, very frank.
Okay.
And we were grateful for that. But it did mean that we were not able to report it verbatim.
Okay.
To the community.
Also, this was at a time when actually speaking to Valve was or hearing from Valve even, this was already sort of an uncommon thing by this point.
Yeah, I mean, it's like Valve are... Oh, that was weird. There's definitely a spy here. Get yourself away there, mate. Yeah, like, Valve are... I don't really know that I can call them weird, because I've only ever talked to, like, a small number of developers. Like, a very small number of developers. But the impression I got or have is that Valve are no more secretive than anyone else. And that actually, if you go to the effort of following procedure, of asking them if it's okay to be interviewed, if it's okay to turn up at their offices, and you don't want to interview them, you just want to talk to them, then they are 100% cool with that.
Yeah, because I've heard over the years of many people have said, oh, I dropped them an email and then went for a tour. But no more difficult than that.
Yeah, I mean, that's...
So enough will happen with you guys.
Yeah, but I think us going directly to Robin as opposed to us emailing the Valve team and saying, hey, look, we're calling you out. They actually said that whether or not they said they listened to us. I know that, like, the second time we went... I remember them saying at some point that they would, on Thursday evenings, tune in at a certain time of day and see what was, like, put up on the big screen, whatever was being streamed about Team Fortress 2.
Oh, wow.
So, I mean, that they are... In the past, they have said... it has been reported that they have said that they listen to the community, and that was certainly the message that they instilled upon me while I was there. Notice the way I'm struggling to say these words, because I don't want to be that guy that says, "Oh no, it's fine. Your secret's safe with me," and then blurts it to all of his, like, mates.
I mean, obviously, you won't answer this, but whatever they told you then is probably not likely as relevant now, because back then Robin was on the tier. I know we don't use the word team in the same sense with Valve as we do with other organizations, but Robin was actively working on TF2 at the time that you guys...
It definitely wasn't Robin's team, but it was Robin's team.
Yeah. That's what we've learned about Valve, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, there's the cabal system that they use where anybody can work on anything. But there are definitely, like, more senior people in a particular project than.
Absolutely.
And so it was his game to lose. It was his project to walk away from. But we rocked up. We turned up fashionably late with the expectation. What we were trying to do was to get them, not necessarily with their pants down, but get them at a time when they were, like, all of the events of the day, all of the stress of the day had gone. Because our expectations at the time was that it was like any other job. That the first thing in the morning, all shit is breaking loose. You've got to solve whatever crap happened over the evening. And around about sort of 2 o'clock in the afternoon, that's when your brain starts to fall asleep. And then maybe around about 4, your brain starts waking up again, and if there's anything else that needs to be done, you can do it then. But realistically, you're mentally done by about 3:30. So we figured if we turn up at 3:30, then we still get to meet everybody, but their guard is down.
Okay, you put a lot of thought into this.
Oh, I mean, the 1 month long time it takes to write a very short email was nothing compared to the strategizing we did on like turning up. Yeah, so we put a lot of effort into making sure the first impression we had with Valve was a good one. And indeed, the conversation we had both with Robin and with a number of other individuals. I think
was Dave Rilla there at the time?
Dave might have been there. Again, not good with names, so I'm probably insulting. Like, I was introduced. It was like the first day of college, you know, when you get introduced to like 1,000 people. And you're expected to know their names, but you know that after the 5 minutes conversation, you've put all of that effort into remembering your own name, that you've completely forgot to memorize theirs.
I'm Agro. Yes.
Yeah, that's
okay,
on. Yeah. And in fact, actually, that's interesting. Okay, of the interesting asides, that is actually one of the more interesting ones. I originally introduced myself as Agro, and I was met with complete blank stares.
Okay. You're going by an in-game name.
Yeah, going by an in-game name. I naturally assumed, as one does, that when you're meeting like gamers, you introduce yourself by your game name.
Absolutely.
And they, like, it wasn't that they weren't having any of it. We're not down for all of your stupid shenanigans, boyo. It was more that, like, why would anybody introduce themselves by the falseness that is their game name when they have a perfectly good real name?
Yeah,
and it wasn't. Well, the reaction was weird as well, and I'm not going to claim that like Valve know who I am. Oh, I've been challenged to a duel. I've got to accept the rules. Hold on.
Oh, Francis wants to duel.
Francis wants to duel. He's going to get me while I'm distracted. Plus, apparently, I've won 69 duels, so I can't possibly.
I've been challenged to a duel now.
Oh, there we go. This is the new thing. I got a kill in. Perfect. He wasn't expecting that. Definitely not. All right, he's going to break my 69, my nice number. Hopefully, if I win. Anyway,
have to throw it.
So as soon as I stopped introducing myself as Agro and started introducing myself as John Irwin, they were like, "Oh yeah, hi John." So that was a weird moment for me to realize that actually you're not your gamer name, you're your real name.
Well, I'm not sure if you've been following Valorant or if you follow League of Legends at all, but I've noticed in all of Riot's communications, they do introduce their developers and staff as gamer names.
Okay.
So they're taking a more Zoomer approach to things.
Yeah. No, I can say that that's not necessarily an unlikely like scenario that they've transitioned. Oh, I've lost one. I think. No. No. He was there in the crowd, but he's not heavy or a medic, apparently. I
don't actually know what class the guy I'm dueling is either.
You'll know when you see him, unless he's a spy, in which case you'll never know what it is. I think that like Valve certainly at that time was a little bit more old school.
Yeah.
And maybe they've changed the name. I know, like for example, Driller. He's Dave Rilla.
Yeah.
So, oh goddamn, I lost at that time. So there is, and Jill's not Dave Rilla's.
Jill.
Like Jill's a different person, and yeah. So that like, I guess it is a Boomer Zoomer thing. Maybe.
That was
implied.
It's been a bit facetious.
Well, different age.
Yeah, I mean, the people who like Valve for Valve and the people who like Riot for Riot, it's probably, obviously there's going to be overlap, but those are probably quite different communities.
Yeah, different communities, different people, different perspectives, and like there have been games that have eaten the Team Fortress 2 lunch a little bit. There have been platforms that have eaten the Steam lunch, and I'm happy that they all exist, because obviously change brings about alternatives, different ways of looking at things, and
makes everyone work harder.
Yep. So all of those things. The point is, there is no right answer. There are simply different answers.
Yeah.
That's okay.
So, at what point in this meeting did the hat, the Lo-Fi Longwave, come to being?
So we sat down at one point with one of the guys who was making a hat for, like, he was just making a hat for Pyro.
He was an art asset designer.
He was an art asset designer. He was making a new Pyro hat.
Okay.
And that was cool and exciting, and we saw like his process that he went through a little bit. I to this day I don't know whether or not it was a performance they put on for us. Or if he was just working.
Like when you watch documentaries and you see them designing a new product, you're like, they didn't design that product for the first time right here in front of the film crew. This is obviously just a pretend redesigning of the product.
yeah. It's live action reimagining of what actually happened.
Yeah, a recreation.
Yeah. So we spoke to like at least one person on the design team, and I think I can't remember whether or not it was part of like a conversation that we had then or something that they responded to later. But at some time it was said, "Do you want a hat?"
Oh, shit, so they offered it. You didn't go there thinking,
"Can we get a hat?"
No, of course not.
In fact, like nobody had a hat. Like nobody, even the concept of getting a hat was so alien. Like,
were you the first community hat?
Yeah.
Oh.
In fact, we're the only community hat.
That's a good. Well.
Yeah. Okay. We do have how you want to define it.
Flapperature badge, for example.
No, it's not a hat.
No, I know it's not a hat, but when I say hat, I usually just mean cosmetic.
Right. Well, okay. We definitely weren't the first cosmetic. Sorry, Google wants to alert me to something. We're definitely not the first community cosmetic. We weren't actually the first, like, not associated with a game hat. Because I think PC Gamer had got there first.
Oh, with the Killer exclusive.
Yeah, that's the one. It's like a press hat or something.
Yeah. So is that PC Gamer branded, or was that just a promotion where they said we'll put your code in our magazine? Because the only way you can get a Critcast Lo-Fi Longwave is through you guys. You can get a Killer exclusive like as an unusual. You can get it in crates, I assume, at this point, or random drops.
I don't know how you get it anymore. Certainly at the time with the Killer exclusive, like you had to have purchased a magazine and then filled in a code.
I did that. I remember.
I remember going to the newsagent and thinking, should I just buy like 500 of these magazines, or at the end of the month see how many they got left, or just rifle through them and like pick the code. I never did. I don't know whether it's just like me being a little bit conscious, or the
probably wouldn't have worked out as a profit.
Well, but I mean, if I'd nicked them, I'd still feel bad for like all of the people who had bought the magazine. Yeah, I should feel bad if I'd nicked them. So yeah, so I didn't do that. You'd be pleased to know. But
so there was the Killer exclusive. Yeah. But the next thing the next hat related to someone who wasn't Valve and who wasn't another game on Steam was the Lo-Fi Longwave. That you're aware of.
I mean, that I'm aware of. I mean, you can fact check if you want, but
I will.
You will. Okay, I'm so pleased you will. And so with such a.
This has made me think about if I do make a video that off the back of this.
Oh yeah.
Maybe. Yeah. It sounds like there's actually enough of a story with just the Lo-Fi Longwave to talk about how it came into being, who you guys were before it, how now you went from being some guys who had an Australian as part of your group to being the first guys ever to have a community hat in the game.
Yeah, you could definitely do an episode on the Lo-Fi Longwave if you want. There's enough stupid and ridiculous stuff about that. In fact, so when they first said, "Do you want a hat?" we hadn't sort of we were working under the assumption that we had to get someone to design an item for us. And the only person we just like fairly recently interviewed Rusky Doo, who was at that time not a member of the podcast. But we'd had a pretty good interview with him. He's a nice guy, and he's very interesting in his own right. He's at least as interesting, if not more interesting, for the stuff that isn't anything whatsoever to do with TF2 than he is for his TF2 stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. You could keep that way. Oh, never mind. So we'd sort of spoken to him, and then we kind of grabbed him and said, "Would you be up for designing a hat for us?" And like at the very end of all of that process, when we kind of went back to Valve and said, "Yes, we were very much. If you're still up for doing the hat thing, we would definitely like one."
So you didn't answer them there and then. You were sort of like, "Oh, let's go away and think about that."
On principle, we said yes. We basically said yes, it would be awesome, but we didn't take it any further. We didn't pursue it, but we made the assumption that they were waiting for us to sort of come back to them.
Have you got a rough memory of how long you left them on red?
I don't know, about a month or something.
Okay.
But it wasn't a huge amount of time, but at the same time, it's long enough. Like it wasn't like, hey, we'll come back to you on Thursday kind of thing. It was yes, but like, what's the next stage kind of thing. So we effectively had a conversation with Rusky. We came up with a plan, an idea, and I think it's reasonably well documented in on the wiki, like what the hat was supposed to look like.
Okay.
And then Valve kind of said, well, we've got an idea for a hat, but we thought, well, we'd put a lot of effort into making the hat in the first place, so let's do our idea.
So your idea wasn't a radio tower then on a hard hat?
Our idea was a radio tower on concrete blocks that have been embedded in people's heads.
Oh, okay, so the hard hat wasn't there?
The hard hat was not there.
Are there any visuals of this?
Yeah, there's a sketch that's on the wiki.
Okay. Is that probably the best reference that you're aware of?
I think there's a sketch on a napkin or something for like one of those classic tales of like. I remember being in a conversation with Rusky Doo. Do I have a napkin right now?
The napkin.
No, Rusky Doo has the napkin. Sadly, I do not. It's too much nostalgia for one man to carry.
The one on the wiki is probably the
there's
clear reference that there is.
Let me wiki the wiki. Weirdly now, if I want to go to Wikipedia, I have to type out Wikipedia in its entirety, because as soon as I type in wiki, it defaults to TF2 wiki.
As it should.
As it should. As a member of the human race. Okay, so I'm scrolling down to the bottom, and there's sadly no pictures.
Oh no.
There's the picture of the concept with a few things that have been deleted because I don't think there were anything whatsoever to do with. And there's coffee stain on it as well. I've got a funny feeling that like it might have been like there's no need for the coffee stain, but I think he was going to upload the picture anyway. But we told him to like spill some coffee on it. That makes it look like more authentic.
I mean, it looks pretty authentic even without.
Yeah, so that was going to be the original plan. I'm sure that there's a picture somewhere. You shouldn't take too much effort to find it.
I'll do my research. I'll see if I can find it.
Do your own damn research.
I mean, I would love, obviously, to have an exclusive picture from the source, if that's possible.
I shall see what I can dig out for you. Remind me again in about a month. Right, to go with my normal form. Somebody in chat is saying WikiCap.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, it doesn't quite match the criteria of what I'm thinking. A community. Yeah. It's a hat created to respect the community. That's awesome. But your hat, and I think as you sort of alluded to, it's the only hat that actually represents a non-Valve thing.
Sorry, I'm laughing because Grandpa Swood in chat is saying Agro looked in the door. Agro kicks in the door and yelled, "Give me a hat!" I would love to have done that. Man, that would have been awesome.
You think that would have worked?
Yes. I think they would have responded to that.
So they offer you a hat. Months later, you come back and say, "Here's our design." They say, "Our design is actually a bit better than that." So
you said
we're going to do that. And then, what? That was it then? It was in the game?
More or less, yeah. So we'd kind of told them that we had a number of followers on or subscribers on Twitch,
Okay.
which is a number they could look up for themselves. Not on Twitch, on Steam. There's a number they could look up for themselves, and so we basically said, wouldn't it be cool if we were able to give each one of our like followers a hat? So they said, well, okay, we'll give you X number of hats. I'm being very coy about the numbers here.
Yes. So
you're not going to get an exclusive out of me of
okay.
how many hats there are. So the reason behind that is I don't want anyone to feel that they're like that we have an infinite number, because we don't.
Okay. Where are they? Are they in a backpack somewhere? Is that how it works, or do you press a button that generates one, but there's a limited number, or is that part of the industry secret you can't share?
I can share. It's fine. I mean, sort of security through obscurity is a real thing. But essentially it's an API call. So and it's the same thing that for people who are distributing medals for whatever events. It's exactly the same system. And in fact, we've gone through a number of like hats distribution solutions in the past, and fallen back on somebody's created like API.
Yeah.
But just such occasions as this. And yes, it absolutely works. And once you've got something that works, don't ever change it.
Yeah.
Just not worth the effort.
I'm not sure that's the motto, but I know what you're saying.
Yeah, if it works, don't fix it. Yeah, it definitely, we've had enough like problems with applications that have failed in the past, and
so basically that endpoint can only be requested a certain number of times. Like Valve have put a limit on it.
Yeah.
And at one point you'll press that button and nothing will happen.
Yep. And in fact, it happened last month or the month before. No, last month. We pressed the button, nothing came out.
Oh, but that was what you were hoping to happen.
Yeah, I mean, I pushed an email off to Eric saying, "Hey, look, I don't know if you know, but
do you know who I am?
Do you even know who I am? Don't give me hats." No, so I pushed an email saying, "Look, I don't know how to express this, but I appear to be no longer capable of giving out the Lo-Fi Longwave." And he's like, "Oh, we thought you'd have long since stopped giving those out."
Oh wow!
So yeah, they re-enabled it for us, but yeah.
So had it run out, or had they just turned off the API? You don't know. Okay.
They had definitely turned off the API. Whether or not it had run out as well, I don't know. I think they turned off the API for like they make the not unreasonable assumption that after a certain number of months, the original like reason for giving the item out has long since passed. Yeah, I think they probably were doing housekeeping. I mean, they've been doing like housekeeping for the last year or so because they had no updates. Whether it's because they're shuttering the game effectively, or they're doing something with the game that requires there to be no new updates to the code. I don't know. I don't really want to speculate on that.
No. And you know no more than anybody else. So.
Yep, I know no more than anybody else. So if anybody tells you that they know the answer, they are lying.
Well, there is a certain big YouTuber who seems to always imply that he might somehow know more.
Have an inside angle.
Yeah. But then it comes out sounding like speculation.
100% bullshit.
Yeah.
I don't mind going on record saying that anyone who tells you that they know more than the rest of the world knows, they're either lying to you or they're lying to themselves, but it's the same result in the end.
We at this point, anyone who's been around TF2 or Valve for a while have got a fairly good idea of how they work. So until a product or is literally out, everything goes basically. Until the update is here, it doesn't matter if one is confirmed to be being worked on, because so many times Valve have dropped something.
Yeah,
because that's just how they work, and we can never know what's going to be the decision.
So while we were there on our first visit to Valve, I need to disable the conversations in game.
That
could be something that'd be massively abused. Do this without dying. Oh, apparently not. Classic.
Zero.
Yeah, so while we were there on our first visit, they showed us a version of Meet the Medic that, to my mind at least, I mean, they told us it wasn't complete, but it looked very, very good. And it told a story that was quite clearly laid out, and I thought was very funny, and there were lots of moments in it that even in its quite clearly unfinished state was hilarious, and would have made for an amazing movie. I say would have made it actually, like, even though they were effectively saying, like, it's nearly done, do you want to check it out? The actual finished version turned out to be completely different.
Okay, so ballpark, how long was this before Meet the Medic actually came out?
Christ, you're asking me questions like how long something was when it happened 10 years ago. So
10 years ago, what was the gap between these two events?
Okay, if you want to work it out, we visited them during PAX, I think 2008.
Okay, Meet the Medic, TF2.
Yeah.
So Meet the Medic. Oh no, that's just brought up the Medic class. That's no good for me. And now my Chrome doesn't want to scroll. Let's have a look. Meet the Medic update. Let's type.
I think there's been 2 Medic updates. There was the initial one, and then there was another
the Uber
one.
update. Is that
That's the one. Yeah.
So the Uber update was June 23rd, 2011. And what did you say, PAX?
I want to say it's PAX 2008, but it could have been. It could well have been, because I think that there were like some stipulation or some guess that it was going to be around then.
They showed you what was.
That'd be 2009. I don't know. I can Google it for you and find out when it was. But yeah, okay, a long time ago. They showed us a near complete or a sketch, or I don't know, version of the Medic animation on SFM that turned out to be 100% different from what was actually finally released. My point being that even if you think you know something, like even if you think you've been given an inside scoop of something at Valve, it could just as easily be a test by Valve to see whether or not you are capable of keeping a secret.
Yeah, and this isn't me sort of pointing the finger at anything, just an example. I remember when Dane went and he had seen something on a whiteboard or something that it almost ended up like Chinese whispers then. There's something on a whiteboard that he interpreted as something. He put his interpretation out there. The community interpreted that then as something else. And then there's this huge sort of backlash at Dane then on the day when like nothing happened, basically.
Is this the fairly recent one, like a 3 years ago or something?
Yeah. That sounds about right.
Okay. Right. The second time I went to Valve, I kind of backdoored a little bit. I knew that I'd had conversation. I think we'd interviewed Ellen Campbell.
Ellen Campbell. What, is she a developer?
She was the artist behind the comics.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And we kind of I kind of figured, like, the royal we again. I kind of figured I'm going to be in California for Rewind 1 or 2. Anyway, and like California's not that far from Seattle. When you come from England, like anywhere in like West America is very close to everywhere else in West America. So I kind of wrote an email saying, hey, I'm going to be in America around at the time. Any chance I can come around and like have not necessarily another tour, but, you know, just talk to you guys and find out what's going on at the moment. And she's like, yeah, okay, that'd be absolutely fine.
How come you were in touch with her specifically?
I think Robin had left the team at that point.
Okay. So when you sort of emailed him, he was like,
well, no, I didn't email her. I think I emailed her saying, hey, look, we've had an interview recently. Any chance that you'd be up for... I didn't actually say if you're up for a beer. I don't know why. I feel like that's a sexist thing for me to have not done, invited her for a beer. But anyway, so... or challenged her for a beer. So, I dare you! I think I didn't have an Australian with me at the time, so I felt it would have been disingenuous to But I think I CC'd
well,
Robin. I certainly made like Robin aware that I was going to be there, and it'd be really cool to like meet up again and maybe have a few minutes of his time. He obviously wasn't all that interested in Team Fortress 2. He'd definitely left that group, and so to just sort of like invite myself to spend some time with Robin, looking at the projects he was working on, very secret projects that he's not allowed to share with anyone. But yeah, it's like a weird conversation.
Alex being worked on 10 years
Well,
ago.
I mean, he was talking about he let loose. He made mention of the fact that he was working on a number of VR properties at the time, and he didn't actually specify what they were. He didn't let any cats out of bags. But yeah, it was an opportunity to like talk to the Valve crew and kind of like more than anything, just let them know that like the community still exists and we do still care, and to find out what was going on. I have a funny feeling that's when they started talking about like the fact that they watch streams on Thursdays. Anyway, so I'm going to be there, and I'm at Rewind. Uncle Dane's there, and I'm hanging out with like the crew from Team Fortress crew, Uncle Dane's lot with Scott Jaw and artist formerly known. Are you? Oh yes, of course you are. Artist formerly known as Julander, formerly known as King Time, and I want to say Phaser or Pazer. It's Pazer, isn't it?
Oh yeah.
So like a bunch of us are going to be in the same place at the same time. I know I've kind of wrangled my way into like a sit down with you, but any chance I can bring some friends?
Okay.
So that time that Uncle Dane went to Valve was actually my visit to Valve. So every time anyone talks of it as being Uncle Dane's visit, I'm like, no, it's my visit, damn you.
Well, the difference was Uncle Dane made a video about it.
Yeah.
And
so this is why
that's what
I'm a little bit.
onto.
I'm a bit salty, because I had that conversation with Dane and with the gang, effectively saying, look, you're there as a guest, you're not there as a reporter.
Right.
So conversations you have with anyone from Valve should be regarded with the same level of security as it would be if you were talking to your best mate in a pub after you'd had a few beers.
Got you.
And on the back of that, Uncle Dane made a video where he revealed a bunch of secrets.
Well, I don't think he so much revealed secret.
Yeah, he certainly disabused a level of trust.
He probably he said maybe some stuff that ultimately could have gone without saying.
Well, the other thing is, I've got a funny feeling that like the whole thing about revealing stuff on a whiteboard. So, the stuff with like that appears on whiteboards. Probably a driller who was telling us at the time that they've got to be very careful to make sure they wipe down whiteboards before anyone visits the office, because somebody had seen something on a whiteboard and taken it out of context and printed a story about it. And so they make sure, and in fact they pointed at a completely clean whiteboard while they were telling us this. So they now make sure that nothing is on whiteboards for just that reason. And I think, if I record correctly, Dane went and wrote something on a whiteboard and then took a photo.
He wrote the white thing on the whiteboard.
Yeah.
So was it all a joke?
Yeah, I can't remember whether it was him that wrote it or someone else wrote it, but absolutely, it was. I'm fairly certain it was a massive troll.
So when he got all this backlash for leaking something that didn't end up happening, actually the leak was him just fucking with everybody in the first place.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not 100% certain that is exactly the way that it played out, but yeah, it was a troll.
That's fair enough.
Yeah.
I mean, he knew, if people knew he was going to Valve.
I'm not sure he's going to be watching this or listening to this later going, I never did that. No, it's completely legit. But like, even if it wasn't, even if you found a date somewhere, it totally didn't relate to anything.
Yeah.
It was like the day that somebody's dry cleaning turned up. Utterly unrelated to anything.
And I think he would have known that anything he said, he would have known that it wasn't concrete.
There was a possibility of creating an inflammatory situation, and I mean, it was exactly what, like, almost literally definition of what a troll is and or does. Just fun, just a harmless fun. Hope nobody lost any money then. It's harmless fun.
To go back briefly to the Longwave.
Yep. We'll get that back there eventually.
So there's a vintage Longwave and then a regular Longwave. How and why? How did it become the case that you can? I'm assuming you can still generate a vintage one or a normal one.
All right. So at the time when we were first going to be starting to dish these out, I think we had made the assumption that they were all going to be uniques. Yeah. And then Valve said, and then Valve said to us, "Well, you could have, we can make some of them like vintage if you want."
So they just sort of said, they threw it out there, but without any intention or plan.
I think they asked whether they wanted to be vintage or normal. I think we again, going back to, it was a very well thought out plan at the time that was completely thrown, completely scuppered because suddenly we had more opportunities than we ever thought would be possible to have. So we effectively were given the opportunity of having multiple variants or 2 variants of something that we honestly were all completely surprised we'd had the opportunity to have one of. And so we kind of felt like we had to come up with like a good way of deciding, like, do we give out like the vintage ones? Do we give out normal ones now and then turn them into vintage later, or how do we play this out? So
you did start with a plan, but once you had the 2 options in front of you, you thought about it.
Yeah, and I think a certain degree of it was like, hey, look, we're going to give you normal ones. Do you want to make them into vintage later? And we're like, oh, we have the option of 2. So why turn down an option of 2 when you thought you only had 1? So anyway, we kind of came up with this plan, which was, let's do the thing we were going to do anyway, but let's kind of divide our fan base. And I really struggled in the early times to regard anybody who listened or watched Critscast as being fan, because it's a weird name.
But that's what they are.
Well, yeah, I think I've kind of come to terms with it, but it still doesn't sit right in my head. Anyway, so we kind of decided that those who had been in the Steam group for a very long time deserve to get like the vintage ones. And those who were new would have a chance of getting the unique ones. And that's kind of like what we ended up doing with it was the big competition, the something big competition, whereby you entered into a website and based on how long you had been in the Steam group, you have a chance of winning one hat or the other. And then we made it so that there was a list of like 150 questions, some of which, like about 95% of which were based on content that was readily available within the Critscast website. So we were encouraging people to go back to the website and to look up stuff and find. It was like one of those paper chase things, or like an opportunity to discover more about us than they thought was necessary.
Yeah.
But what would happen is like 5 questions would be delivered to a competitor at once. They had an opportunity to answer those 5 questions. I don't think there was a timer on it, but if they answered them and got it wrong, then they'll get a message saying, "Hey, look, you didn't win this time. Try again tomorrow."
Okay.
And admittedly, the try again tomorrow was a little bit like, well, if you actually want it, you're gonna have to work for it. Like, you're gonna have to remember to try again tomorrow. But at the same time, we recognise that actually, I mean, on the back of things like the Portal ARG, as soon as you propose a task to a large enough group of people, then eventually they'll find a way of making it easier for everyone else.
Yeah.
So recognizing that, and it turned out to be the case. Like the Reddit was particularly, so they'd essentially set up a thing that said, "Hey, look, I got I got question 47. Here's my answer. Or I got question 6. Here's my answer. Well, they decided like I passed, so my answer must be right. What we didn't tell them was whether or not they got the question right.
Okay.
We set it up, and I'm so incredibly proud of this, and I probably shouldn't be, but it like nobody figured out at the time what was going on.
Okay.
So if you had been part of the Steam group for like 6 months or more, like long before there was any possibility of hats, and you got 2 out of the 5 questions right, you got a hat.
Ah.
And we didn't tell you which 2 you got right and which 3 you got wrong. If you had only just joined when there was a possibility of getting a hat, like a week ago or something, you had to get 3 out of 5 correct.
Got you.
So it was still like more than 50% chance of getting like a hat. Like a very, very high possibility of winning. But it wouldn't really help that much.
That's
anyone else.
That's nice. I like that.
Yeah. Thank you. I was rather pleased with it.
That's
And
so lived for a certain amount of time and then changed.
No. Well, okay. So after a while, the website went down. I mean, I did see on Reddit. I'm still gloating about this, by the way.
I'll leave you to have your moment.
Thank you. So we saw on Reddit lots of things go up, lists go up about questions that would assume that got right, and about 50% of them were correct. 50% of them weren't. So those who are effectively like waiting and having another go the next day, but using the Reddit list to cheat, they were getting half the questions right, half it was wrong. Yeah. Anyway, I'm sorry. I'm done gloating now. I was just so pleased with myself for coming up with this genius plan of screwing Reddit over.
You were still rewarding your long-time
fails, and still rewarding people who actually listen to the podcast and actually were interested in what we were creating. And in fact, staying on the live date for it, when we did, we were going live with the event while like a bunch of us, myself, Tempest, myself and Tempest, like being the 2 Brits in England. We were at a LAN party called the Monkey LAN. I'm wearing the Monkey LAN t-shirt.
Wow. Full circle.
It's Monkey LAN 10. I don't know whether that's from 2010 or just the 10th LAN. But anyway, so full circle. We were at the LAN event, and when the event was due to go live, when the something big was due to go live, one of the hosts was controlling the chat when the rest of us turned up at someone's house because they lived nearby and they said we could use their good internet, I suppose they should on.
Yeah.
Do a podcast, and they were kind of baiting the chat. Somebody in chat had suggested that the something big was going to be like the Meet the Medic or the Medic SFM. And someone else said that if you go to the wiki, you could find an answer. Like the chat effectively baited themselves, but nothing was done to correct them. And so many people went to the TF2 wiki at the same time that it killed the wiki. The wiki saw it as a DDoS attack. But not only did it kill the wiki, the actual TeamFortress.com website was hosted on the same site as the wiki.
So it took down Team Fortress.
It took down TeamFortress.com. Yeah. So that's just how many people were in chat.
That's impressive.
And well, it's good, but it's terrible. Like I would never advise anyone to lie to a community, or even if it's a lie by my omission. Because the backlash from it was so great that something that we knew was awesome, as in we get a hat, was destroyed by the very fact that it wasn't the thing that other people assumed that it was.
Yeah.
And that's not just a little unfair, that's very unfair. That we didn't
Everyone was disappointed then. You guys were disappointed because hype for your hat was derailed.
Yep.
And then the hype for something that didn't exist was also derailed.
Yeah. And at the same time, I felt like, I don't know whether I'd say we disappointed Valve, but it definitely wasn't our best day.
Yeah, I mean, and you were only partially responsible. I understand what you're saying. When you see it going off the rails, and you can sort of,
I mean,
on.
I hate it when people say, "Oh, it wasn't me," or it was a different person within the same group. Like, if you're gonna be responsible for your group, you need to just admit that, like, if somebody fucks up, they're on your team, and that's your responsibility.
Yeah.
So yeah, if there's a hand to be put up, it's going to be mine. I'm going to hold my hand up and say, look, I should have corrected people. I should have let them know that actually it was just completely like irrelevant to the thing that they think it's going to be. It's something that's really interesting and exciting for like fans of Critscast, but anyone else might be like disappointed.
So something big, is that the terminology you were using to tease this?
Yeah. I mean, for us, it was most certainly something big.
Absolutely, yeah.
For the rest of the TF2 community, less so.
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
I'm running on autopilot at the moment, and our team has just capped. I wasn't aware that we were playing a different map.
You're on the other team.
Am I on the other team? I mean, crushing you in your dreams. Oh no. I'm sorry. Yeah.
So after the quiz, then at some point you changed who gets a vintage, who gets a normal, or what the criteria is.
Yeah. So because the quiz had been so successful in deterring the casual TF2 player from getting a hat.
Yeah, and you've never wanted it to be a hat just anyone has. You want it to be a hat.
We want it to be a hat that yeah. Well, okay. I mean, I definitely changed my mind on that one. But certainly at the beginning, we wanted it to be a Critscast thing. We certainly wanted people who had already been invested in Critscast to have a significantly better chance of getting one. Not only because they had one less question to answer correctly, but actually because if they were funny little questions or silly little questions like what does everybody love? And the answer is boobies. Yeah. Learn
that one today.
Yeah, exactly. So if you are at least vaguely into Critscast in any way, the quiz would be so easy, so easy. That it almost didn't exist. The quiz was really just a barrier to slow down the hordes.
Yeah.
But it worked too well.
Okay.
So we ended up with more hats at the end than we ever possibly could have imagined. And actually, this thing that was supposed to be an amazing opportunity to give back to the community ended up being something that meant that we had a warehouse full of hats and no one to wear them.
Okay.
The benefit of having hats or badges or anything else is twofold. One, for the people who get to wear it, it's an opportunity for them to brag about a thing that only they have.
Yeah.
And for the thing that it's in aid of or support of, gets to have this advertising beacon that people gleefully wear while they run around a server.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we'd
wearing mine right now.
Thank you very much.
It's not even for the purpose of this podcast. It's for those reasons that you just described.
Yeah, exactly. So when we were left with more than we thought we would have had, we kind of didn't know what to do with them. So we started doing this process of giving them away to Player of the Week.
Okay.
So the guest of the show had an opportunity to name someone, or we looked around at when people were doing awesome things, and we essentially between us all decided what a person who was winning was doing, and we kind of celebrated in their victory by giving them a hat. And that was awesome. That was really cool. I think I kind of went off the rails a little bit and started sort of going onto servers, and if people were doing charity live streams, we'd kind of give out a bunch to people who had donated a $5 or so. We ended up giving out massive numbers of them.
Okay.
Far more so than we had originally done. There there was the original spurt, then there was a massive drought, and then we kind of like almost gave them out willy-nilly. And it was only in the last so we kind of like decided on a formula. Is a vintage goes out to anyone who has like had to undergo some process that resulted in them earning it. As in, they've won a competition, they're player of the week, they are, they've, I don't know, they've, I think won a competition is probably like the vaguest answer, which conforms to all. But they didn't just pull a cracker and get a hat.
Yeah.
They had specifically worked with that in mind. I think we gave them out to Oz Fortress have like an award every season, the end of every season, which is essentially like to the team that has done the most to support the community throughout that season. So we partnered with Oz Fortress for a couple of seasons so that we could give them like that team, the winner would of that award would also get a Lo-Fi Longwave, vintage Lo-Fi Longwave.
Yeah, that's cool.
And it's that kind of level of, hey, look, you're doing something awesome for the TF2 community. Here, have a hat. That we've stuck with. So now that there are ways of getting them, you could do some work for us, as in, you've made an awesome like SFM picture that we've ended up utilizing. Here, have a vintage, or your player of the week, or you've won a competition, or whatever. I think the edging competition is the thing that I'm most proud of at the moment, as the most disturbing artwork. But yeah, it's
very disturbing.
Yeah, thank you. Scout is running around like a spy, and I don't know whether it's because he's a spy or because he's just he's a dodgy scout. So many medics to kill. I'm gonna die here, but at least I get a chance to talk to you. Yes. Okay. Right. I'm dead. Right. So ETF2L season. It's a quiz-voted award show. Oh yeah, player of the season. Yeah, player of the season gets. So yeah, there's
cool.
There are a few ways of getting hold of vintage. I regard the uniques as being more a general thing that goes out to people who I observe doing awesome TF2 things, like streaming TF2 on Mixer at 2 a.m. when nobody else is. Like it's just like. It's supporting TF2 in a way that is making it more visually prominent.
Yeah.
Without actually doing anything to directly support, like deliberately to support the community or deliberately to support cast. Passive support of TF2 is worthy of like.
You gave me one after just some random video I think I'd made about interesting hats. And you commented on it and say, you'll find an interesting hat in your backpack, or something like that.
Yeah, it sounds like the sort of thing we'd do. Yeah.
And that was one of my crowning TF2 moments.
Thank you. I'm so pleased that you hold it in such high regard. Like, I mean, it's
absolutely.
It's anything that like kind of gets the word out about TF2. And that's one of the things that TF2 struggles with at the moment because there's no new content.
Yeah.
The big YouTubers aren't making TF2 related videos because there's nothing for them to talk about that hasn't been sort of spoken into the ground several times before.
And we're seeing creators every couple of weeks. We're seeing a new creator say, you know what, I don't think I'm gonna do TF2 anymore.
Yeah. I think the latest one to give up
Hamagineo.
Yeah, that's it. Hamagineo was quite recently has said, look, I'm done with TF2. You're not doing anything for me anymore, game. I'm not doing anything for you. I don't enjoy this anymore. I'm gonna stop.
Yeah, exactly.
Which I think is kind of like it's a little bit too far over.
Okay.
I would be so much happier if people stop playing TF2 while they still enjoy it but aren't enjoying it that much.
Well, I can tell you from probably quite a similar perspective that Hamaji was coming from, is that like you've built up something cool, a YouTube channel that is not like it doesn't depend on TF2. You can make other videos and you can have other successful videos, but when that doesn't happen, and then you find yourself like you just see loads of numbers. I'm not sure how you feel about that with your podcast and with your videos on here. Probably maybe similar. You know?
I think we're lucky in that we've never been successful. Like we've never really, apart from the occasion, like the wiki, bringing wiki down kind of occasion.
Yeah.
With one or two very obvious exceptions.
Yeah. Fair enough. Well,
we've never really been like all of that big, and so long as we remain not that big, then we're not really gonna grumble that we've. Hey, look! It's another week when we've only got like 1,000 views on a YouTube or 500 views on a YouTube. It's like, that's another week. Yeah, so long as we're not dependent.
Yeah.
On this to put bread on the table or soup in the kitchen, then weirdest phrasing of that. But it's okay for it to like we're almost okay to just do our thing.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, I can imagine. I've put out videos before that aren't TF2, and I've worked like super hard on them. I've watched it back 100 times. I've been so proud of it. I know this is a good video, and it just bombs. And you're like, oh man, that feels awful. But then you also have the other side of things where almost any time you do something that isn't TF2, you've got people saying, "Where's TF2?" Or can you do this TF2 video?
So I think that comes from a very thirsty audience.
Yeah.
Like there's very few excellent quality creative contributors out there.
Yeah.
So whenever somebody comes along and they show a bit of talent, then the TF2 community just bolsters them 100%. TF2 community just wants them to be awesome, and they show every sign of being awesome. And then as soon as their numbers start going through the roof because TF2 has created this monster, naturally the creative people start going, well, okay, we've run out of the awesome that is TF2. TF2 is no longer awesome. We're going to go and try something else. And the TF2 community kind of rightfully feels betrayed, but it's not. It's like it's never a simple equation. Like it's never
I
that
think
simple.
Betrayed is a difficult word to use in that scenario.
I could certainly imagine them feeling betrayed. I don't think
they're
right. It's not the right word to use from the creator's perspective.
Yeah, exactly.
But like the very fact that they're being noticed by anyone other than TF2 is a direct result of the success that they had while they were doing TF2. I think TF2 is like a great opportunity to take a leapfrog. It gives you if you're used to getting like 10 viewers on your content and then you go into TF2 and you suddenly get 200 viewers, doesn't necessarily mean that you can go onto another game and get like 300 views.
Yeah.
But it's a great way of like prepping and deciding what it is you're good at and finding your niche and finding your voice. The betraying part comes from how you exit the scene. If you leave it by saying, well, TF2 is broken, it's a shit game, I don't know why I spent all this time here and it's never going to get better. Nobody should play TF2 ever again. It's a shit game. Stop playing TF2. Then you're doing a disservice to a game and a community that brought you to this place in the first instance.
Yeah, that I definitely agree with.
And I think that's a mistake that has been made by various YouTubers. They've left.
Yeah.
They've quit angry.
Yeah, rage quit.
They literally rage quit out of TF2 for good. And it leaves their fans with a feeling of, well, screw you.
Yeah, that's absolutely how I've seen it too.
Yeah, I mean, you look at people like RT Game. The way he left was almost the definition of the right way to do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which was, hey, look, I'm playing other games. I've always played other games. I do love TF2, and I will always love TF2. It's effectively my one true love. But now, I need to see other people. No, I need to play other games, and I'll come back to you when there's more to play on.
Yeah.
And it wasn't, I'm done. It wasn't like, you're a shit game now. It wasn't, hey, this is a dead game. I think I'm not sure if there is a thing called the dead game fallacy, but there damn well should be.
You write it.
Yeah, I will. Damn you, I will. I won't. But like, it's, I'll certainly write it in my head, but I'll never put it to paper. But yeah, it's like this idea that because you no longer see value in playing in putting time into a thing, it must be, everybody must have given up on it.
Yeah.
It's dead because I don't like it anymore. And that sort of thing is not.
That feels
great.
bad then if you're someone who does like it. It almost feels like you are being insulted. Your preferences are being said are wrong. So yeah, I totally get why people get upset
and offended and pissed off and want to like seek some sort of retribution. It's like, it's your reaction to their bad reaction is itself a bad reaction, but let's stop this like circle of hatred. There are definitely better things to do.
Well, we had I think we were talking about the Longwave, and I don't know how we ended up there.
All right. Well, I mean, I'm hoping you have at least one more question, because if we have to end it on that, then that's really bad.
I do have a question about your community degreaser that you're playing with.
Yeah.
What's the story there? How did you end up
how
with
does one get to community degreaser? So
is it crits cast related?
Yeah, it's 100% crits cast related. Like I think that they no longer give out community weapons, and again, I think their reasoning or their logic for it is fairly well understood. That like, what makes somebody worthy of a community weapon and other people unworthy, and that's not a question that has a reasonable answer to it. It's like, at the time, I think what used to happen was an individual was locked down by Valve, or fully researched by Valve, as being somebody who had done something worthy.
So these community items, are they almost like Valve given equivalent of a unique Longwave, but from back in the day? Back in the day, Valve would be outstanding community members and say, you're a good, outstanding member of our community.
You're a good chap. Have a hat.
Yeah, basically.
Pretty much.
Oh, you blew me away.
Oh, was that you? I'm sorry.
I came back.
You killed me. I assume that would be the case, that they effectively saw good people doing good things to promote TF2 and wanted to celebrate or help them celebrate or keep them interested in the game. And it's like, as a tactic goes, it's fine. It works. It only stops working when you stop giving them out. But it also stops working when people start asking for them. Yeah.
So how, off the top of your head, how many community items were ever given out? Do you know that?
Could wiki it. There have been possibly 100, maybe 200. Like it's considering how many millions of people have played TF2, it is a very small number. I know that if it was like not in the last group of people to get it, but like last but three kind of thing. I was in the last 3 waves of people that got them.
So did everyone at Critscast at the time get one? Or something?
Yes, everyone at the time at Critscast got one. Tempest, myself, Kronos, and Boobies. The Fab Four. Everybody loves Boobies. We all got weapons. Tempest and I were on a Skype call. This is how long ago it was. we were on a Skype call, and he, I think, was recording, like, he was making a video, not specifically for YouTube, but he was just like wanted to like record him playing TF2. So he was recording that, and he recorded the Skype call as well. And we were kind of like chilling around and talking on a map. I think it was on 2 Fort. Again, that shows how old it is. We're back on this same map again. All right, so we were kind of like chilling out, and like he got the weapon the same way that people get the Lo-Fi, which is he died and it appeared in his backpack.
Oh, so he didn't know that he was going to get it.
He had no idea that he was going to get it.
Oh wow!
So and there's actually a YouTube video for that, and it's a darling YouTube video because
so there's a reaction of him.
There is a reaction, a live reaction of him experiencing what was his soldier, I think it was, like rocket launcher. He got a live reaction of him getting community rocket launcher, which was if I can do an impression, it was and like it took him like maybe 2 or 3 minutes for him to actually say what the hell it was that he was owing about. I've got a community rocket launcher, and he was so like genuinely happy. It is the best.
That does sound awesome.
The best encapsulation of a human being being both surprised and delighted at the same time. And I'm a very petty fellow. Certainly was back then. And as much as I was incredibly happy for him,
you were jealous.
I was so jealous because yes, technically he was like the founder of VGN. Like him and Dr. Zayas together made Clan Vengeance, and I later joined. I felt like I was at least like a co-founder of Critscast, and
you deserved one as much as he did.
Yeah.
At the time, you felt that way.
Yeah, I definitely did.
When did yours arrive?
About 4 minutes later. and I felt immediately, like my first feeling was just deep and incredible regret that I had either like resented him for his fortune and then also like not celebrated enough with him.
Yeah.
And I think the best example of the best way to appreciate the friends that you've got and their fortune, I was on an MVM with my good friend and caster Brain. Oh, CJ, there we go. And Harold, I think it was, got a pan drop, a golden pan, and CJ's response always makes me feel shame again for how I treated Tempest when he was so fortunate. Because CJ was 100% positive. Like he gleefully responded like it was his birthday and 1,000 virgins had decided to celebrate with him. Like it was everything was cool. He was so unbelievably happy for Harold that it made me feel bad as a human being all over again. So anyway, Tempest got his, I got mine a few minutes later, and I think you can like almost hear on the track me trying to fake being happy for Tempest.
Oh, that's so good,
and then reacting almost like with surprise and delight and shame simultaneously. Kind of awful and terrible, and yeah, that was a good video.
I'm definitely gonna look that up after this.
Please do.
So, did you ever hear from Valve as to why? Like, obviously, you can infer why, but did they ever say, "Oh, we dropped these in your backpacks because your crits cast, blah blah blah," or anything like that?
Don't know that they did.
Oh, okay.
They
silently give you a pat on the back, almost.
Yeah, they might have done. I don't know that was their priority to kind of like make you feel awesome about the thing that you did. I'm relatively certain somebody might have said it's about Critscast, but like, let's face it, like, what else is it going to be?
Yeah.
So
this is probably that sort of era of Valve where Thursday nights they're putting TF2 streams up in the lobby, and they're seeing community members over and over again.
Yeah,
going,
yeah, get them
let's
super hype.
drop them an item.
Yeah, possibly.
I used to. Sorry, go on.
Well, the other thing was that we got our items back before you could choose what your item was going to be.
Oh, okay.
They based it on the number of hours you'd played a particular class and made the assumption that that was your main, and then gave you like the main weapon of that class.
Interesting.
So playing Pyro, my main weapon was the flame thingy.
Flamethrower.
That's the one. But like almost within like a week or a month or something, they had released another version of the flamethrower called the Degreaser that was better than the flamethrower in every conceivable way. And I was like, well, I really want to use the community Degreaser, and I'm sticking with it because, you know, community Degreaser, sorry, community flamethrower. But
yeah, of course.
But I really want to use Degreaser, but I'm sticking with the flamethrower. And then I thought, why don't I just write them an email asking them to change it into a Degreaser instead? And they're like, yeah, go on.
Can you remember who you wrote to?
Valve, probably Robin.
Fair.
Yeah.
And then they swapped it for you.
They swapped it for me. Yeah. So
that's awesome. I used to play on a competitive team with a guy who had a community. I think his might have been a flamethrower actually, for I think designing some of the default profile icons for Steam or something like that.
Oh really?
I'll have to see if I can find a source on that. See if I've still got him in my friends.
Nice.
Big Trader, it was his handle.
Big Trader.
Big Trader. I don't even know if he traded that much. I don't think he did, but that was his handle.
Well, he didn't need to anymore. He's got the best item in the game.
Pretty much.
Community item is best item.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's what I've always liked about, or what's always interested me about items in TF2, specific items, is how you got them. And there's loads of items in TF2, especially the older ones, that have got a story to how that item was obtained. And those are the things that really interest me, because if you have that item, you are now part of that story. You're part of that history, and that there's a cutoff point for these items. So once that's gone now, no one else can join into that story. That's a bit of history that you have limited access to. So stuff like a community item. Yeah. Well, no one else is getting those.
There's only so many stories about community items. There will never be.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So that's like a precious bit of history, you know, a rare bit of something to hold on to, if you like. Am I talking nonsense here?
No, it's fine. I'm reading something that's going on in our chat at the moment. Bite Miaski's is talking about something about his ears being held hostage by Toast. I have no idea what's going on. Apologies for that. I do read chat, but often not while it's happening. Yeah, no, that's a legitimate and interesting perspective on it, because I think, I mean, you're right. Just that there are some stories that will, like TF2 itself. There are so many like community activities that take place.
Yeah.
That actually, it's very possible to miss, to not see the community that's there, because you're either distracted by the story, or you don't recognize that there is a story.
Yeah.
And that you just see it as a game.
Yeah.
So
but
yeah.
That's why so many people love Team Fortress, because it's more than a game. Right?
Almost got killed by a spy. It is.
It's not more than a game. It is just a game, is it?
No.
That's such a weak mindset.
When TF2 was first released
in 2007,
there was no story.
Okay.
So
then it was just a game.
It was literally just a game. There was no lore. There was no story. There were no things. Didn't happen. There was no rhyme nor reason. It was just 9 versus 9 or 13 versus 13. Or on community servers like 16 versus 16.
Yeah, I used to play in 32-player Dust Bowl.
Yeah.
Somehow.
Instant respawn, everything's madness all the time, kind of thing.
I
Yeah.
have no idea how that was fun.
Yeah. Absolutely every idea that it was awesome. Yeah. So it is very easy to forget that actually TF2 was never supposed to be anything more than a bit of fun.
Yeah.
But
by
all
story,
of
I
the fun has
don't
come
mean
afterwards.
like the story of class.
Yeah, no, I'm not insinuating that you mean lore or canon or whatever, but like the collective human history of events that have happened and times that have passed.
Yeah. Like I own the number 3 crafted Dr. Woe.
Oh.
And I was specifically sat there with a backpack full of hats at the time that the weapons dropped, trying to craft a low number Dr. Woe, because back then we knew what hats would come in, and when the update was going to drop, I could actually prepare for that moment.
Yeah, and absolutely.
I cannot explain my elation of actually seeing that number 3 Dr. Woe with my craft name on it now, because when you craft an item, it says crafted by.
Yep, good point.
And that is such a unique, I know it's a virtual item, but such a unique virtual item to me that no one else has that. No one else has got the number 3 Dr. Woe. And Team Fortress 2 is a game that's so, widespread, and I'm the only person who has that item, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I think that's such a cool thing that Team Fortress 2 offers to you that not other games offer.
Yeah. And I don't know whether or not they're happy about that, like whether they regret the fact that there are craft numbers.
Okay, because
in this, I think they're all either one number or that it's a entirely randomized number, or it's a number like one of 3 numbers or something. Like I don't think they do like let's celebrate 4th person to get this random thing anymore.
Fair enough.
I think they pulled away from a lot of the things that were quirky and interesting. Not
why do you think that is?
I see earlier answer that either preparing, they want to lock down code and lock down everything so that when they release whatever this amazing update is, they don't have to like fix all of the code in the back end to make it work. Or more realistically, unfortunately, they're done with the game and they don't want to invest any time in this community when they could just as easily invest it in the Artifact community or the Dota community. Like Valve is definitely not a transparent company.
Yeah, I think we can all agree on that.
100%. And that lack of information sharing serves them well in generating hype, serves them poorly in speaking to their communities. In the same way that I have struggled with referring to people who are fans of Critscast as fans, I think they struggle with admitting that TF2 has a community.
Interesting. On a completely separate note, what is your favourite flavour of ice cream?
Oh, I see you've read chat then.
Perfect.
Oh, Christ, here he is.
We've got a lurker.
Who let him in? Yeah, I'm absolutely certain I've answered this question before because hi, Bite Me Asky. Oh yeah, the other person is part of Critscast. I forgot that I've got a co-host, which is Bite My Asky. That's really bad. Yeah.
Well, He's never mentioned you before.
I'd literally never mentioned. Like you literally deliberately asked me who is Critscast, and I'm like, yeah, it's just me, and Wiethoofd and a bunch of casters and a bunch of if you want, I could go through the list of people and thank them individually. And if there's a shout out opportunity at time, I'll do that. But
I'll make sure if I do make a video that you have an opportunity to research who you work with daily and tell me.
Yeah, absolutely. But like, there's
I'd be a lot more upset if I didn't have a fluffy kitten in my lap, so it's fine.
I'll
let you off this time.
You've got to pay the cat tax now.
No. I've already paid my cat tax for this month. It's fine.
Please at me on Twitter.
Of course I will.
And share cat pictures. Yeah, it's to be Salcombe Dairy honeycomb ice cream.
Oh, wow.
Because although I'm not from Salcombe, my parents live there or had lived there. I lived there for a while, and it's a very cool place. And back before they sold out, it was an excellent ice cream. But they sold
like chain ice cream now.
They sold out to Harrods.
Harrods?
Yeah.
Oh, Harrods was just one store in London. Is that not the case?
Harrods is like Selfridges. It's a store made up of other stores. It's a store that sells a bunch of other stores' products.
You get it in Harrods, is it?
No, you can get it all over the place, but they changed the recipe to suit Harrods' taste. So they stopped. They made the honeycomb more uniform, so all of the pieces are the same size, as opposed to what it originally started off as, which was, hey, let's grab a bunch of honeycomb, crack it with our fists, and stuff it in some ice cream and call it done. So,
authentic ice cream.
Authentic, as your mum used to make kind of ice cream.
Wow.
I don't know if your mum used to make ice cream.
Oh, you just told me she did.
Well, I don't think my mum definitely.
I just think you know better than I do.
But yeah, it used to be amazing, but it's now okay. I don't know that I have a favourite one.
Fair enough.
I enjoy the texture rather than the flavour. Like, there are so few things in the world that have this texture of ice cream.
Well, you say the texture of ice cream, but there's a lot of textures to ice cream. There's a lot of ice creams with different textures.
I'm talking about like the actual ice cream itself, as opposed to the things you've thrown in it, like the frozen milk cream produce that kind of melts, almost crackles as it degrades on your tongue, with nothing more than the heat from your own mouth, is a fantastic and wonderful experience. And
it sounds very passionate right now.
It is.
My mouth's watering. Oh,
If you need to get a tissue, then we can stop for a moment. But yeah,
I'm going to need a whole pillow.
Yeah, I am taking part in that event that you've been advertised in, so now's a good time.
oh, is this the the edging competition? Oh yeah,
I'm not going to say it.
yeah.
What's the matter with the etching competition? It's wonderful.
Genius
yeah,
name.
I don't understand the problem.
I'm just.
Weirdly, the servers we're playing on at the moment, the creators.tf servers, are excluded from the edging competition. It only works on
Valve servers.
standard Valve servers.
So all this time I thought I was edging, I wasn't.
You were not. That there is no edging to be had on creators.tf servers.
What a wasted evening.
An
I'm
amateur edger.
so sorry.
Can't believe you've done this to me.
Destroyed your hopes and dreams right there.
Sorry, as soon as you mentioned the edging competition, all I can see in my mind is the image that promotes it on the Twitter post, and I can't get it out of my head
What?
now.
That's the reaction image to the meme image.
No, the actual promotional image.
Oh, the
where
SFM.
Scout's got a heck of a
Scout's got
batting arm.
one arm is just huge. And
He could do the bonk taunt with a single hand now.
Yep.
He's too powerful.
damn you. Yep. So, I think what's one of the things we've had certainly during our podcast phase is a number of hosts, and all those that have left for a variety of reasons.
Yeah.
Very few of them, in fact, only two that I'm aware of have left because TF2 no longer interested.
Yeah.
But that's not to say that, like, I think Kritzcast has almost inevitably gone through an evolution. The very fact that we're having this conversation right now is because this, for me, is fun and easy and enjoyable and a great way of sharing my passion of TF2 with an audience, hopefully a wider audience, than I could have done if I was still doing it as the standard weekly discussion of things that have changed in TF2.
Yeah.
Because that would be a very weird and old conversation almost immediately.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So I guess a good question that's towards the end of my list of questions, but we sort of already tiptoeing around it, and I'm not sure how long you would normally run for. We've been about 2 hours. Is that sort of?
Normally go for about an hour.
Oh,
But,
in that case,
I still got half a pint of beer, so we're still good.
let's end on this one then. What is the future of Critscast as you perceive it to be?
So
What's the plan?
the sit down that we've the mandatory enforced sit down procedure that we've all been engaged with for the last few months has been a great opportunity for me to look at Critscast and realize that actually the podcast as it was is dead. We now do this as a like a weekly sit down and have a natter with a bunch of friends who are either like friends of the show and have been for a long time, are important in the world of TF2 now, or used to be once but are long since completely like irrelevant to TF2, but actually are interesting people in and of their own selves. Having a chance of like doing a catch up with people like Crash, who we spoke to last week, is super cool because the projects they're into now and the stuff that is exciting them now makes them just as valid like a guest as they've ever been in the past. And it gives me a chance. We're talking about like exposing TF2 to a wider audience. It exposes me to a wider audience of or a wider community of gamers, and that is super fun for me. So TF2, the podcast side, has evolved, and I'm very happy with where it's evolved to.
Yeah.
The esports side is growing, and we are very, very happy with where that is right now.
So CompTF2's participation numbers are going up recently, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, so there are lots of, with things like RGL, there are lots of new competitive environments. There are loads of people engaging in competitive, and we have we've kind of like had the opportunity to, as I say, work with some fantastic casters. We've like quadrupled the number of producers that are available to us, which actually just means we've gone from 1 to 4. And
But it sounds more impressive the other way.
Quadruple is definitely. I mean, we technically quintupled it, but I didn't want to sound facetious. So
we're actually at 5, you know.
yeah.
Just,
Well, I'll have you know, but I mean, we kind of looked 1 and a bit for a long time, so now we're more like 5. So maybe that's more like quintuple. Anyway, so we've increased the number of casters, the number of producers that are available to cover the content that we want to stream. We're kind of between seasons, so actually there's not a huge amount to stream, which is unfortunate because we've also started working with Antlion and the mod mics. So we're kind of doing a bit of a promotion for those guys, and having like legitimate, as in non-inside, non-community, non-key based advertisers that we're working with means that we have to become better. We have to become more professional. We need to deliver on the promise of competitive TF2 as opposed to like the potential of it. So we need to ensure that we are presenting TF2 in its best light, and to do that, like we're working with so many people at the moment. I almost don't want to sort of pinpoint one thing and say, hey, look, we're doing this so much better, when there are so many people that we're working with to make Critscast delivery of quality TF2 content more enjoyable, more accessible, more beautiful.
So when do you see yourself and everyone else involved stopping Critscast, or don't you? The day the TF2 servers get turned off, if that?
I mean, the answer realistically, I have
Yeah.
always held a number in my head of
Okay.
after X number of years, I will leave Team Fortress 2. I've
Okay.
always had it in my head, and that number has never changed.
Okay.
Okay, right.
And is it in the past? Okay. Because you've been
quite
doing
the
this
opposite.
now, if the dates are to be believed, 12 years.
Well, I mean, I've been playing the game for a number of
13.
years. Yeah. Actually, I mean, I played TFC before this, so maybe longer than 13 years, maybe about 20 odd years. Anyway, so I've definitely been a fan of this game for a long time. I've played this game for as long as this game has existed. I've got like the primeval badge for playing before it was released, kind of thing.
Nice.
So I am a hardcore TF2 fan, and I will love this game until the day that I die, if not longer. I've always told myself, though, I will stop playing this game 8 years after Valve are no longer supporting it, are no longer releasing updates.
So are you assuming they never release an update again? Are you saying that counter started when we got the last content update, or do you just mean any patch whatsoever?
Yeah. So that number restarts every time they release content.
Got you. Even if it's just like a minor bug patch.
I think asked Valve to do a thing. Oh yeah, it was Valve re-enabling our ability to give out
the
Lo-Fi Longwave.
We mentioned it earlier. Yeah.
That was the last patch. so
Oh no way!
It would be a little bit like.
So you are the reason for the latest TF2 update.
Yeah, the fantastic update that did nothing but update localization files and a few hidden things. Yeah,
that's
so
amazing.
That's
a really cool bit of trivia.
Yeah. Oh,
that's
yeah,
going to go in my video for
really?
sure.
Okay, fair enough.
I mean, it's literally the most recent TF2 update. How can I not mention it?
Responsible for the latest TF2 update. I mean, they put other fixes in, but yeah. I mean, they say we're not going to release an update for you. We'll include the update in the next thing that we push out, or the change in the next update we push. So yeah, I mean, it's quite the opposite really. But anyway, so but what I mean is that the last time they do a significant update, and depending on when you really want to be counting it from, it's either like 3 years ago, because it's been a long time since they did something beyond the expected update.
Yeah.
But actually, I mean, beyond that, it's been. Oh god damn it! I should have picked up the med pack when I had a chance. Beyond that, maybe in 6 years' time, 5 years, 6 years' time. Having said that, like, Comp kind of doesn't care that there aren't any updates.
As long as Valve doesn't disable the ability to run community servers.
Yeah.
It could,
like if Valve does that thing that they do when they're doing an update and it sort of it turns off like the thing, disables the thing that means you can't use any of your weapons or whatever, then
the item servers.
Yeah. So if they turn those servers off and never turn them back on again, maybe that's the time I start counting, because that's like Valve really doesn't care about this game at that point.
Yeah, that's not. Yeah, that's like end of life.
That's sell all your hats kind of moment, empty your backpack kind of moment, because that's when things have really gone like shits up. So but I mean I've made a commitment. I remember sitting in a cafe. In
you really thought about this then?
Of course, yeah. I mean, it's one of those moments that gets like seared into your mind. I was sat in a cafe. I should have been working, but I was sat in a cafe in London, and Tempest and I were talking about like something to put on a T-shirt.
Okay.
And I came up with this amazing slogan, which is, I think it actually wasn't a T-shirt. It's like the end of a blog post, which was, as long as there's Team Fortress 2, there will be Critscast.
Oh, okay.
And I thought about it, like, as soon as I'd said it, as soon as I'd, like, messaged him with it, I thought, that's a really, like, powerful message. I hope that I get to stand behind it. And I had one of those, like, internal debates where you think, was that too strong? Have I said something that I can't possibly, like, realize? And actually, do you know what? both of my hands work. I still have the internet. My computer is great. My keyboard's great. My mouse is great. I still enjoy this game.
Yeah.
I play it to relax. I play it to get hype. I enjoy watching competitive. I occasionally enjoy casting. Like, every now and then I get to see a different side of the community because somebody does something batshit and crazy, insane with TF2, and we all get to enjoy it all over again as if it was the first day. And so long as those feelings and experiences are still in my heart and in my mind, I will love the shit out of this game. And I think, like, so long as there is TF2, there'll certainly be Agro. And if that means there gets to be Critscast as well, more for it.
That sounds awesome. I think that's a real inspiring way to look at it. I mean, you've been doing it 12 years, and the game's had plenty of up and downs during that time, and you're still doing it.
Yep, absolutely.
So, well, yes, that's great. I couldn't have hoped for a better answer to that question.
Okay.
I guess I do have one more question. Then.
Stop playing the game now, so yeah, go on. You got my full attention.
Can I come back as a guest?
You know what? Until
should I?
well,
Not permitted.
Oh,
denied.
I knew I've embarrassed myself. Now.
No, we can have you in Self Agro. That's
Well,
perfect.
This is the first time. Yeah, I mean, if you two of you want to do the show, that's. I mean, I'm all for that. And if I told this to Bite a long time ago. Like, wouldn't it be cool if like I didn't have to do the show and it was just you and you interviewing some random bod or you and a bunch of other YouTubers? I don't know. Let's have this let's have this conversation again because like this is stupid awesome and let's
do it next week and then put it off again.
Yeah. Okay, you've seen the show then. So like it's just until I had spoken to you, I would have said that is massive assumption. And occasionally we get people like who'll send us messages saying, "Hey, I'm free next week. Can I come on the show?" And my answer is always no. Because when people invite themselves onto the show, it's never the same as it could have been if I'd invited them in the first place. Like it's one of those things if you're too eager, it comes across and it's rarely a great experience for everybody. However, if I've chased you and you've not been available 1 week and then I've had to put something off and then we eventually do this on Friday instead of Saturday, or whatever the circumstances, like I'll know that because I worked for it and you've worked for it, actually it's going to be like we'll both appreciate it a lot more. So had you have asked this conversation or asked for this favor or whatever it is what you wanted to do it as, before we'd had this conversation, my answer would have been a very awkward no. But having spoken to you now and had this opportunity to experience TF2 a little bit through your eyes, I am very keen and willing to have you back at almost a drop of a hat.
Oh, thank you very much.
I would be delighted to experience the role of interviewer with you under my thumb as interviewee.
Thank you.
Yeah.
As I think I've let on, I would love to come on.
Okay, well, I can't do next.
Agro, can I come on?
No. Who are you again? What are you doing in this show?
You might find out what my favorite ice cream is.
Yeah. Oh, don't tell him too soon. Don't tell him too soon.
No. You'll have
We just
wait.
Just keep him on the edge.
Oh, I'm on the edge of my seat. I need to find out next time. Oh.
Look forward to next time.
I'll let chat down.
For those who don't know, this was a weird experience for me. I guess you. I'm not used to being the interviewee. How would you rate my performance?
For me, I thought you were great. I mean, you'd implied to me before we started talking that you might be giving me one-word answers to some of this.
Gotta love those one-word answers.
So you certainly blew that expectation out. and I've learned everything that I could have possibly wanted to. I wanted to know what's happened with Critscast. What's Critscast done to affect TF2 and vice versa? And you give me so much detail about that. So I couldn't be happier.
Awesome. Well, I hope that you do get something from this, at least enough maybe to make.
Yeah, I think that seems quite likely. It's certainly, I think there's enough of a story with the Longwave for it to be interesting as a story on its own.
Sure. Okay. Well, look. While I've got you here, you did say I was going to get an opportunity to do this, so let me give a quick shout out to everyone that's on our at the moment, and just give you an idea of how vast it is. We've got 9Joa6, Amaterasu, new person. I'm not going to get that name right. Arc Rhythm, Beta, Buck 824, CJ, Chedsy, Connor, Dan Green, DJB, Beto, X-Tine, another Gamma, Jakawadi, Lucky, Mitsuya, Mr. Lights, Muhai, Scrambled, Ultrafy, Wiethoofd, and Xander. Oh, okay. Maybe one of the Aussies. And I think we occasionally do work with Dum Tum and with the other so. I've been incredibly lucky with opportunities to work with people. I've had amazing opportunities almost thrust in my face. We were talking a little bit before about the time when I was part of a startup to own Twitch. And that was just one of the things that happened to the TF2 stroke Critscast experience that I would not have had if I had not have had an opportunity to do stuff with the TF2 community. I just think as a community goes, and it has had its ups and downs. There are certainly moments that I'm not particularly proud to have been part of the TF2 community. But for the whole, I think the people who end up playing and wanting to be part of the TF2 community are just intrinsically awesome. And the community as a whole is wholesomely accepting of everybody, flaws and all. And if someone happens to screw that up, then it's like it's a collective kick in the shins for everybody. Because as toxic as we can be, I think we can also be just genuine and awesome human beings. So I am always pleased to be part of TF2. And grateful. Incredibly grateful.
I share that sentiment. It was beautifully put.
I'm grateful I'm dead.
You dick. Okay. I'm gonna love this guy. Like my ASCII dude.
I'm just the comedy relief.
But it
The
works.
comedic relief, sorry.
All right. I've stopped playing the game, so there's no longer the echoing sounds of people deceasing to my flames. And with that in mind, I think it's time for me to give you an opportunity to give shout-outs, Casperr.
Oh God, I didn't know that was coming.
Yep.
The roles have been reversed now. You're the guest again.
I think there's so much pressure on me that if I say anyone and then leave anyone out, then I'm a complete bastard.
Well, I'll spin it on its head then and say...
Well, don't worry, it's a lose-lose situation.
Rather than thanking all of your friends, pick your favourites because they're going to be player of the week.
Oh, that is a nice spin. How many can I name?
Just the one.
Just the one friend.
There it goes.
Oh my God.
Your favourite friend?
Oh, that's a horrible position to put me in.
Yes, it is.
Oh my God. So I'll pick one friend who I've played Team Fortress with since as long as I can remember, and I know that he will appreciate the long wave should it appear in his backpack more than perhaps some of my other friends who I've been playing with for a similar amount of time. And he's someone who I still talk to about IRL stuff. So that's always something that online gaming. So when your online friends go to the next level, when you care about how everyone's doing in their real life and stuff like that. So Bob Muss, hope you enjoy your hat, and Agro, I'll send you his profile in a bit.
Bobness?
Bob Muss.
Bobmas, like Christmas, but with Bob.
Like Christmas, but with a Bob, exactly.
Right,
So
excellent.
even better.
So
Exactly.
let me press the button and he'll accept his player of the weakness. Here we go. Congratulations, Bobness. You are this week's player of the week.
Congratulations, Bob.
Right, there it is.
It's a little bit there, wasn't it?
Woo, yeah!
I mean,
Start
I
the
don't know
freaking
what
party.
I'm waiting to see.
Right, yeah, that's
It's audio. It's audio.
It's audio. It's audio. That's all that happens. But you didn't miss it. I got the wrong button. A weak moment from my part. So
Yeah,
used to
absolutely.
was I the relaxing experience of talking as opposed to with amazing questions. Right, I think we are done here. Thank you very much, Bike, for joining the last minute.
No problem. I'm doing my job, doing my part.
Thank you, Bobmus, for having an awesome name.
Yes.
Thank you, Casperr, for those intriguing questions.
Oh, and yeah, thank you, Agro, for answering those questions.
With that in mind, I think it's only fair that you close the show.
Well, thanks everybody who's here right now, and those watching on VOD, and those who tuned in and aren't here now, and everyone who played with us, because as soon as we got there, the server filled up straight away, and we had some pretty solid games all night. So thanks everyone, and I'll see you when I'm back, and the other guys will see you when they're back. Good night.
Good as it gets. Take care, everyone.
Farewell.